Hello, this is Sarah Hope with Vertical Identity. I'm the Drug and Alcohol Program Manager, managing hundreds of motor carriers all over the country for their third-party administrator requirements as an owner-operator to be part of a random drug and alcohol testing pool. I wanted to create this short video and explain what the Clearinghouse Query plans are, how much they are, and why it impacts you. As an owner-operator, you will be required to perform clearinghouse queries not only on yourself, but any additional drivers that you will have. This process will be required at the same time that you are doing a pre-employment drug screening. So you go ahead and you're onboarding a new driver. You will not only be required to send a manual drug and alcohol clearance letter to past employers, but you will also have to query the clearinghouse for any drug and alcohol violations. So it is a double request that you are required to do. In order to query the clearinghouse starting January 6, 2020, there is a $1.25 flat fee per query, either limited or full. There's two types of queries. Now, as a third-party administrator or even the company that's doing your background screening, which we do both for some of our clients, it doesn't matter. The third-party administrator will not be allowed to buy these credits on your behalf. Therefore, whenever you go in and create your clearinghouse account, please buy some queries. Buy 1 or buy 10. My suggestion is buy 10 for $12.50. Keep them in your account so that you don't need to deal with this in the future. You are required to run a query before you allow someone to drive on your motor carrier, and you also must run them annually. In order for a query to be ran, that driver must give consent to the motor carrier that is going to be requesting the query. So it is not public record. Not only do you have to pay for the query, but the driver on the other end that you are requesting the query on must give you permission to view the record. So let's go over that for a few minutes. As a driver, you will have access to the driver dashboard. The driver dashboard is different than the motor carrier dashboard. As a driver, you will be required to consent or not consent to clearinghouse query requests from motor carriers that want to either lease you onto their company or for yourself. As an owner-operator, you will not need to do this, from what I understand, because you are one and the same. However, if you're going to be hiring any drivers, you will be required to perform this process, and then the driver will need to have their own clearinghouse account and be able to go in and consent. This is what it looks like from the driver dashboard. When a driver logs in and creates a clearinghouse account, they will see query consent requests. At that time, they can go ahead and consent or not consent to different queries that are being requested. So here is one that says, here's a pre-employment query from West Coast, and the West Coast is asking whether this driver will allow them to run a query on them. And here's East Coast Trucking, another pre-employment, and Southern Trucking, another pre-employment. So let's say that you want to give them all consent, or you've decided to go with one, then you would require, say do not consent to the other two. Right now, it immediately shows you that you have no violations on your record. If you did have a violation, it would show you a different dashboard, and it's listed right here on the right, where it's going to show you that you did have a violation that was recorded. what it was for. In this case, it was a random test. And for what? It was an alcohol concentration that was above the legal limit. And then here is your return to duty process details and test details. And at this time, you would have to select a SAP, which is a substance abuse professional, and complete the return to duty process. Until you perform those two things, then you are prohibited from operating as a commercial motor vehicle. As you can see here, the query consent request, you have 3 pending requests. You can either view them and approve them, or view them and reject them. But if you approve them, and the employer will be able to see that you did have a violation, and to see what step you are in the return to duty process. Here's some additional information. So not only will you as the driver be able to view detailed information, violation information, this is what the test detail results or query report looks like in the clearinghouse. So the violation history again is listed here. So it's my dashboard, violation, queries, return to duty process, and my account. So it tells you here what the violation was. It was for random. It was reported by Chicago Trucking Company, and it was for an alcohol violation. And here are the details that would be reported to the employer. Under driver dashboard, you can view pending and completing query results and requests. So here is an updated query result. For JB Hunt for pre-employment, it is telling JB Hunt that the date of the request was 12/5 and that they are currently prohibited from driving and why. Now, they will also say when there's new information that has been reported, and then here's a new request that you can either approve or deny. If you, at the point that you do have a violation and you have to complete a return to duty process, you must identify a substance abuse professional, and then that substance abuse professional is required to meet with you and come up with a return to duty process and plan that you will be required to follow and the motor carrier will be required to follow. In the case of an owner operator, if you are your own employer and you are self-employed, then the consortium company, your CTPA, is responsible for overseeing that process for you. In that case, vertical identity. If we are your CTPA, we will be overseeing you and helping you complete your follow-up process and your return to duty process as dictated by the substance abuse professional. So one of the first things that you have to do is select your substance abuse professional. They have to be licensed and approved by the FMCSA. So you would enter a name or location, so a zip code, and then search for someone. You would reach out to them. After you meet with them, the SAP will report your return to duty initial assessment, your education and training, your return to duty test, and then your follow-up plan. The follow-up plans are different for everybody. Sometimes it's twice a month drug and alcohol. Sometimes it's every other month just drug. You don't know because there is no standard, and the professional that puts that together is a substance abuse professional. It's according to, their assessment of where you're at. So the return to duty status here is complete. So the test on the screen on the right says it was completed on 6/15. And here is the SAP information. So John Smith, he's a substance abuse professional. He's a licensed physician. Here's his address and his phone numbers. And the current return to duty process is open. You need to complete the follow-up testing. The substance abuse professional request sent was 12/22. And then the response was accepted. And then the initial assessment was completed on January 15, 2024. Your return to duty plan was completed on March 15th. The return to duty test was completed 6/15/2024. 2025, and it was entered by West Coast Trucking, and the follow-up testing plan is not completed. As a motor carrier, you are required to enter the information of the follow-up testing for your drivers. If you are a client of Vertical Identity, we are happy to help you complete that process or perform it for you on your behalf. These are the steps that you must complete in order to access the clearinghouse as an owner-operator. I do have a separate video that is in 2 parts that walks you through the process of how to complete the registration for an owner-operator, which must be initiated at the FMCSA portal and then continued on to the clearinghouse. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can go ahead and reach us at consortium@verticalidentity.com. If you have questions about what the clearinghouse is and who it impacts, please watch the video on Clearinghouse, What You Need to Know Now. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.